Happy holidays, everyone. Welcome to End of the Decade. This is the final Q&A live stream of the decade of 2019. I am Aaron Rift. I am being joined by Caitlin. We are here to discuss the 2010s in the world of wrestling and also to discuss what's to come in 2020. Let's start off with breakout star of 2020. Who is going to be that next big star or stars in wrestling, whether it's WWE or AEW or NWA? In the chat room, for those of you watching this live right now, feel free to give us your contributions. Caitlin, I'm going to start with you. Who do you think, which man, which woman, who's going to be the it factor in 2020? Who's going to be the big star as far as you're concerned?
I'm gonna go with Keith Lee.
Keith Lee.
Yeah, I think I really liked everything I've seen from him so far. The crowd's super behind him, and hopefully that means that they'll allow him to go over and not squash it
Right.
instead. Also, I really like Dominic Dijakovic or Dijakovic, however you say it. Aaron, Amy, and I were at an NXT show like a year and a half, 2 years ago or something. And he hadn't been doing too much prior to that. And we saw a match and we were just blown away by him, and everybody was on their feet and everything. So those are my two picks for who I think is going to explode in the
And I
coming year.
think they're really solid. Both of those people have the size and they're tall. They got everything. They got the look, they got the in-ring skills. Hamp Connell with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. What does Hamp have to say?
He says, about to go in and watch Star Wars. Just wanted to say hello and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Hamp. Thank you very much for that super chat. I do appreciate it. Cindy said Rhea Ripley, who is the brand new NXT Women's Champion. I think she will definitely be the one to carry the NXT brand in 2020. But you want to talk about breakout. Keith Lee is a great choice. Dominic Dijakovic is a great choice. What about Shayna Baszler? Even though she's been the NXT Women's Champion, she's probably going to the main roster, and we very well could see her in the main event picture in 2020. So I think there are bigger things to come for her. I think 2020 is going to be her biggest year to date. Hopefully, like you said, with Keith Lee, that she squashes people and she's not the one that gets squashed. Let's see what you guys thought in the chat room. Hamp Connell says Adam Cole, which I definitely see Adam Cole continuing to have that momentum in 2020. He'll continue to be the guy that carries the brand, and maybe we'll see him go to the main roster and continue to be a major force. Now, let's talk about who might be going to AEW, because even though WWE has been the top brand and it's the place where people go for the biggest paycheck and the biggest stardom, AEW is on the rise and they seem to be getting hotter, although some people don't like the Dark Order storyline and people are trying to find cracks in AEW. But AEW is a solid alternative to WWE, and there are a lot of people that have been frustrated with the company, people that have requested their releases from the company. So, Caitlin, I'll start with you. Who do you think is going to jump to AEW if you had to make a prediction?
I'm going to go with Luke Harper.
Luke Harper.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty solid choice. I would be shocked if he doesn't end up in AEW, and I could see him. I mentioned this on the NoDQ review. I think that if he was the leader of the Dark Order, that could salvage that whole storyline, and I think he would be a good pick. I definitely see him being a top player in AEW, and hopefully he gets to that level that he could not get in WWE, and a lot of people felt he should have been at that level. A lot of people consider him to be the most underrated guy of the past decade, other than Cesaro, of course. I'm seeing Ryback in the chat room from Steven. He says Ryback. I think Ryback is definitely a possibility. I mean, Ryback has been hurt, and I think that's been a factor in him not being around. I think when he's healthy and able to get back in the ring, I could absolutely see him going to AEW. I know a lot of people don't like his persona, and They think he's the opposite of what AEW needs. But I think AEW could use a guy like Ryback, a guy who has that superstar look. He doesn't look like your average Joe on the street. He looks like the real deal. And I did want to add a few more names here to the breakout stars. Cindy brought up Tessa Blanchard. I think she's a great choice as well. And I could see her in AEW or WWE in 2020, and she could be taking that next step. So good choice there, Cindy. And also, as far as AEW goes, like I definitely could see Darby Allin becoming a breakout star in AEW. I just think the fans are into him. He's like a Jeff Hardy type enigma character. And of course, Luchasaurus is another one. We do have a super chat here.
Alex James, 199, super chat. Can you talk in detail why you don't like Ace and Ace?
Aces and eights.
Oh, well, I was like, I'm reading it how it's written.
And, Big G. Okay, you got to say this one, and then I'll talk about aces and eights.
Big G, $2, says, shitter's full. But you left off Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Shitter's full. There you go. Now, that's a Christmas Vacation reference, by the way. Feel free to leave us some Christmas references and see if we can get them or not.
Ooh, good game.
Look what you did, you little jerk. Big G. All right, so aces and eights. Long story short, to me, it was a very low-rent gimmick. It felt like something out of the indie scene. Instead of having stars in the group, you had a bunch of guys, random people wearing masks. It was pretty obvious to be a knockoff of Sons of Anarchy. And then when they finally had a big reveal, it could have been a huge superstar. And with all due respect to him, it was Devon Dudley when he really wasn't doing all that much in Impact Wrestling. And you had guys like Garrett Bischoff and a bunch of other guys that were really not doing much of anything, no names. It did not feel like a major league storyline. And, you know, Taz joining the group and being out there on commentary with the gear, and they're trying to be this outsider group. It just didn't feel authentic, and it didn't have any real creativity to it, in my opinion. Big G with another $2 super chat.
He says, Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Nice, another
Home Alone.
Another Home Alone reference.
And then Cindy said, why is the carpet all wet, Todd? Well, I added Todd in. She left it out. But that would be Christmas Vacation.
There you go. I like them. Keep them coming, guys. Keep those references going. So what does Jeremy Dorset have to say about Austin Aries?
He says, I see Austin Aries and EC3 going to AEW.
Well, I think if EC3 gets out of his contract, if he's either released or it expires, and I have no idea when it expires, I could see him jumping. Austin Aries, maybe. I know he doesn't necessarily have the best reputation, but the guy can cut a great promo, and I would not be shocked if we saw him in AEW at some point. All right, so let's move on here. I did want to mention the Revival also was another team that could possibly end up in AEW once their contracts are up. Matt Hardy, maybe. For some reason, I feel like WWE will do him right and keep him around. But Revival, I could see them leaving, and possibly a couple other guys that have been not getting much TV time as of late that have their deals coming up. I could see AEW picking up some people in 2020, maybe a good half a dozen. All right, so now we'll move on to a new topic here. We'll talk about the projected WrestleMania 36 main events. And again, you guys can send in the chat room some of your thoughts on what do you think will be the top matches at WrestleMania 36. So Caitlin, we'll start with you. What do you see being the top matches for this year's WrestleMania?
I'm not really sure, but I'd say it's always a safe bet to go with Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns versus well, Bray Wyatt's the champion. So yeah. Do you see Bray Wyatt staying champion to WrestleMania?
I don't know. I mean,
you think
you've got the thing with Daniel Bryan coming up, so it's hard to say.
Roman Reigns versus, call it, I'm going to say Bray Wyatt.
All right.
So do you agree with me, or do you see Roman Reigns in a different match? Well, I'll let you think on that, and if you come up with something, just feel free to interrupt me.
All right.
I think it's going to be Shayna Baszler versus Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. To me, that seems like the obvious direction now that Shayna has lost the title and you have the Survivor Series match to set that up for WrestleMania. Either that, or if Ronda Rousey comes back, it'll be Ronda versus Becky. One of those two matches. And then I think it's going to be Brock Lesnar, and this is not popular. I know a lot of people will not like this, but I feel like it's going to be Brock versus either Tyson Fury or another match with Cain Velasquez.
Yeah.
What do we have here from Ken?
$5 from Ken, terminated by Google. What up, Rift? Shout out to Caitlin. This is my apology if you two thought I was a NoDQ hater or troll in all of the live streams. I never thought that.
No. And we very much appreciate you, Ken. Thank you for the super chat and your continued support of the website and the channel. Oh, I wanted to share this with everybody. There was a person who sent me an email, and I thank him for the email and his honest opinion. But basically, he decided he cannot support the website anymore because I've been too negative about WWE, which I find to be very interesting because other than Raw, which is, even as of late, I feel like it's been decent, but I don't think I've been overly negative towards WWE. NXT has been great, which is part of WWE, and I feel like I've been very fair, but apparently, as of the past few months, I've gotten too negative for him, and he stopped watching. So I'm sorry to this person that he feels that way. I have no idea if he's watching this or not, but I do thank you guys for watching, and hopefully I do come off balanced. I try to be as fair as possible and try to look for the good in everything. But, you know, it is a review, and when you review something, you look at the pros and the cons of it. We have another super chat here.
You can read that one.
If you want, I'll read that one. You take a little break here. Big G with a $2 super chat. And, oh, this is another Home Alone reference. Get on your knees and tell me you love me. I love that scene. I think that's 2, but I'm not
I was like,
sure.
I don't know that quote.
Oh, so that's why. I think that's part 2, Home Alone 2, but I'm not entirely positive on it. Merry Christmas to Caleb Jacobs. And go Democrats in 2020. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
No politics.
Go Libertarians in 2020. I'm going to throw my vote away. And that's enough
And they told you that it is Home Alone 2.
Oh, cool. I got it right. Oh, there you go. I'm going to tie it in. Donald Trump was in that movie in Home Alone 2. There you go. See how I saved myself there? Mm-hmm. The This Guy Experience. What do we have here?
He says, can we call in Vince for president? Give me the doll.
Vince McMahon for president or Vince Russo? Which Vince were you talking about? I don't know. I don't know.
Chris Mace. Taker versus The Fiend Survivor Series, Taker 30 years.
I love that idea. And here's another prediction I'll make. I think Survivor Series is going to be Undertaker's swan song. 30 years. He's got to wrestle. It's 30 years. That was a $2 super chat, by the way. Thank you, Chris Mace. I think that should be Undertaker's final match. 30 years after his debut. I know WrestleMania is nice and all, but 30 years from Survivor Series 90 to Survivor Series 2020, going out losing to The Fiend. I like it. I think WWE should book it and let that be Undertaker's final match. So I totally agree with that. They might even do Undertaker and Bray Wyatt for WrestleMania. You never know. Undertaker could be a surprise in the Royal Rumble and win the whole thing. I mean, that would be an interesting twist. But then who would Roman Reigns face at WrestleMania? See, I'm trying to think like who else you could put Reigns in there with at WrestleMania on the SmackDown roster. I mean, certainly not Baron Corbin. I hope they don't keep it going that long. Bryan's a face now. So who else can Reigns face other than Bray Wyatt at this point? So let's see. Where are we at now? Okay, so we talked about the projected WrestleMania matches. And NoDQ Rock says John Cena versus Undertaker 2 instead as their last matches. What do you think about that? Or do you think, let's move past that?
No.
If John Cena was to have a big match, maybe, okay, here you go. John Cena, Roman Reigns for WrestleMania, rematch of No Mercy. Since they never had a WrestleMania match against each other, they had that No Mercy match. Maybe we could get Cena versus Reigns one more time. So I'm thinking maybe that'll be it. That's a possibility. And then Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt. That'd be interesting. Jeremy Dorset says Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley versus or for WrestleMania 36. I don't know if Bobby Lashley is going to get that high profile match. I feel like once the Rusev storyline's over, he's going to be back in the Battle Royal, or probably both of them, knowing their luck, they'll both be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
Right.
All right, so now we'll get to some of the questions from you guys. And wait a minute, we do have a super chat here from Mr. Dark Fantasy with a $2 super chat. It says, does Roman Reigns win the Royal Rumble or the Chamber? Good question. I mean, I could see him winning either one, or maybe he loses both and then faces John Cena at WrestleMania. But I feel like my gut feeling is Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. I just sense it. And I'm going to go with my gut. Usually my gut is correct. And I'll say, I mean, Roman could win the Chamber. I could see Cain Velasquez or Tyson Fury winning the Rumble to swerve everybody instead of going with Roman yet again for the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I don't want him to win the Royal Rumble for that reason. I was going to say Roman Rumble. Probably
it will be the Roman Rumble. Do you have the questions? You want to pull up those questions, and we'll get to some of your guys' questions from Twitter, and of course you can keep sending in the super chat questions. And we do have one. I'll get this one from Tony H. $2. He says, what was the worst booking decision of the decade? Well, that's a deep question there, Tony H. And I'm going to say one of the worst ones was maybe Nexus, and how WWE failed to make those guys something big when they were red hot. I mean, when they came out and destroyed John Cena, that was a hot angle, and they kind of blew it with those guys. Even though several of them did become pretty big stars, like Ryback and Wade Barrett to a degree. Anonymous Raw GM was one of the worst storylines, and just the fact that had no real payoff. What was it, Hornswoggle? He was the Anonymous Raw GM. That one was stupid. Jeremy Dorset says the Nexus invasion. I tend to feel like that was one of the worst ones. Maybe Undertaker's streak ending was a bad decision just because it did not need to end at that point, and you could have kept it going. So there's a lot of questionable decisions that have been made, and worst booking decision in Impact Wrestling, there were a lot of those. I think bringing Hogan in the first place was a pretty bad idea, although I get why they did it. They tried to use his name value to build their brand, but instead it did the opposite, kind of ruin the brand. How about Damian Sandow losing to John Cena? I feel like that was the beginning of the end for his push. There's a lot of them. There's a lot more than I can think of at the spur of the moment, but there's a lot of them. All right, so what do we got as far as questions go?
Okay, so Colin Andrews sent in, over the last decade, in your opinion, who was the worst Intercontinental champion?
Easy answer. I did think about this for a few minutes.
You put Zack Ryder in there.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that was you.
Yeah, I put that there. Zack Ryder.
Sorry.
Zack Ryder, just so I wasn't gonna forget anyways. Zack Ryder, worst Intercontinental champion of the decade. And you guys know why. For those of you that have been following the channel for the past several years, I made a bet that if Zack Ryder won that ladder match at WrestleMania 32, I would shave my head and the beard. And guess what? Zack Ryder won the match, only to lose the title the very next night to The Miz. So I was annoyed beyond belief. Zack Ryder by far. This Guy Experience with a $2 super chat says, Vinnie Mac for president, give me the doll. I guess he wants the Santa doll back there. I think that's what he's talking about. I'm not sure, but I'm going to presume he's talking about the doll. All right, what's our next question?
Okay. The Only Crush. What is wrestling missing today?
And then what else did he say?
Okay.
That's not me. Yeah, that's not me.
What is wrestling missing today? I feel it's the larger-than-life characters. It feels like the current talent is underdeveloped, whereas they should be getting more development. Yeah, I'd agree with that for part of it, at least.
Yeah, I definitely. That's a great question, and Steve Austin recently talked about this in an interview. You can check it out over on NoDQ.com. I think it is the lack of character development and storytelling with the less is more philosophy. Now it's all about who can do the biggest high spot, who can do the most spots in one match, how many kickouts can they do in a match, instead of just the older style of storytelling where you build up a story between two characters and then they settle that story, and it's the story that really carries everything that's happening rather than the actual moves. Wrestling is a soap opera, so I do like to see the character development, and I like to be able to invest in the characters rather than just see a bunch of guys go out there and see who can do the most amount of gymnastics and flips. It's all cool, but I do want to see more story, and I feel like wrestling is lacking that must-see atmosphere. In a previous generation, Attitude Era, Raw was a must-see show. You could not miss it. You had to watch it live, and if you missed a Raw, you missed something special. It just had that must-see feel to it that I don't feel it has now. I feel like now you can just go on YouTube, you can DVR it, watch it later, fast forward through it, because it just doesn't have that must-see feel to it anymore. And I keep saying must feel instead of must-see feel. But yeah, I would say the fact that it just doesn't feel like you have to watch
Well,
it
yeah, and they
live.
don't end with cliffhangers either that much, where
Yeah.
you're like, we got to pick it back up.
Absolutely. I agree on that for sure. Sometimes they have it where they have cliffhangers throughout the show, but yeah, I miss the old days when they really built to something so you would stay invested week after week after week, and it just doesn't happen. You know, they'll do 1 week where they'll maybe throw a bunch of things together and make some compelling storylines, and then the next week they'll just drop it and do something else instead of just sticking with it. All right, so what's our next question?
Okay, so the next question is from Matt55478935. Hello, Aaron. What's your opinion about Dennis Rodman's run in WCW, and do you think he made an impact to the business when it comes to
Celebrities.
Oh, okay. Celebrities in wrestling. Sorry. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you and your family from Sweden.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that, Matt. I think he had a solid run in WCW. I think he definitely helped bring the cool factor to the NWO. And they were already pretty hot, but when Rodman came in, he was arguably at the top of his career, and he was a hot name in the NBA. So I think he definitely brought the cool factor to the NWO. I still remember that Nitro where Hogan, Rodman, they came out, they were smoking the cigars, and Voodoo Child was playing, and they were totally badass. Like, you wanted to be those guys, and to me, that really did a lot for the NWO and WCW at the time. It felt like the show to watch. And then, of course, Rodman and Karl Malone, the tag team match with DDP and Hollywood Hogan in '98, that did one of WCW's biggest pay-per-view buy rates. The third run he had with Randy Savage wasn't quite as memorable, but Rodman, he has the persona to be in wrestling, just very over the top and bizarre and unusual. The different colored hair. Rodman just had that pro wrestling persona. Wasn't very good in the ring, but it was, again, the character that really told the story. So yeah, Rodman definitely. I would say he should be in the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame. I would put him in. So what do we got here? We got our next question from. Looks like Cindy's got the next one here.
Well,
Yeah.
not on my list, but all right, I'll skip to her. This one here.
Yeah.
Cindy says, "Hey, Aaron Rift, which companies really need to improve when it comes to the women's division, WWE or AEW?" So I guess she's saying which needs it more.
I mean, I would say both. I think the WWE women's division is pretty strong, except for the tag division. Although it has rebounded, I think, with the Kabuki Warriors a little bit. But who else do they have to feud with? Like, WWE hasn't done much of anything.
Yeah, good point.
Who do you have? Like the Iconics?
Yeah, I was gonna say the Iconics.
How many other tag teams do
Oh,
you have?
the Sonya and
Mandy. Yeah, but they're not really doing
what's
much
their
either.
name? I forgot already.
Fire and Desire.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And AEW, I think, needs work. I've said it on my other streams. Riho just isn't cutting it for me, and they're starting to do something with Chris Statlander, but other than that, I feel like none of the women really shine, and that other woman, the Freddie Mercury cosplayer, just not feeling it. You know, they were just brought out there, and I don't know what their characters are, and I think AEW could have done a better job with the women's division, and it seems to lack depth, and they haven't really built any new stars in that division. They could have done something with Britt Baker, but they've kind of made her a bit player. Like, she hasn't really been picking up much steam, and I felt like when they first announced AEW, I felt like she was going to be somebody that they could have made a star, and they really haven't done it yet. So don't know what else can be done other than start pushing some women, building them up, and doing video packages, letting them cut promos, and try to make some stars with the women's division, and maybe sign a couple more women. Hopefully they could get a couple, if they could pick up a couple of big names into the women's division, I think that would help as well. I mean, it's too bad AJ Lee is retired. Like, if they could somehow get her, that would be huge for them, in my opinion. All right, what do we have here?
So this guy Experience 499 super chat says, "Wow, no one ever seen Jingle All the Way. Who was the biggest wasted returning superstar in the past 10 years? Merry Christmas, back to work for me." Yes, I've seen Jingle All the Way like a million times.
Okay, what's the Big Show's line?
I'm gonna deck your halls, bub.
There you go. That's my favorite scene in the movie. Sinbad is such a jerk, though, in that movie. Like, I don't know why he's always trying to screw over poor Arnold over a toy, over Turbo Man. So the biggest wasted superstar in the past 10 years, I mean, Cesaro, a lot of people would argue Cesaro. Every time we did the who's the most underrated person in wrestling in the year-end awards, Cesaro won more than anybody. So yeah, Cesaro has got to be at the top of the list. Damian Sandow, I think, was another guy that got the Raw end of the deal after winning Money in the Bank. And honestly, The Miz, like, I feel like The Miz has been reduced to a comedy act when he's so good when he turns up the volume. And the stuff he was doing over the past couple years with Daniel Bryan, and then with John Cena and Nikki Bella and Maurice, that whole storyline, that was great. Miz was awesome in that storyline.
Yes.
When they did a parody of Total Bellas,
Yeah.
That was great with the house rules and everything. I know you appreciated that.
I did.
That was a good storyline. So it looked like we had another super chat in here, did we not?
Yeah. So, Mr. Dark Fantasy, what was the protest beard for?
The protest beard. Man, I don't even remember what it officially was for. Like, on video, I don't know. In real life, I was just not feeling like shaving, so I didn't. But I don't remember if there was a reason. Maybe it was because the WWE product was so bad. I seem to remember Survivor Series 2015, that period being really bad creatively, and maybe I was just like, I'm not shaving until they get their crap together. I really don't remember, though, to be totally honest with you. Cindy thinks it was something about Raw.
I keep saying it like Hinder, but I think he means Jinder.
Oh, Jinder Mahal being champion? Maybe I had another protest beard. I may have had several of them, for all I know. My memory tends to forget why I had those beards.
How much money for you guys to buy and play WWE 2K20?
Oh, why do you do that to us? Okay, what do we got here?
Tony H, $5. What belt is going to be the primary belt WWE will push in the next decade? Universal or WWE? Plus, best Brock title match of the decade.
Ooh, that is a tough question to answer. Okay, so best Brock title match. The first one that comes to my mind is that triple threat. Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins versus John Cena. I think it was the 2015 Royal Rumble. I really enjoyed that match a lot. So that would probably be my top one. I mean, my favorite Brock match, I think, was CM Punk at SummerSlam, but that wasn't a title match. I'm trying to think of other title matches. There were some solid ones, though. But that 2015 triple threat is the one that stands out the most to me. Now, what was the other part of that question?
Yeah.
Which belt is going to be whichever one Brock Lesnar has. Let's be real here. So right now the WWE title, but I mean that could easily change. They may flip-flop the titles back and forth between Raw and SmackDown. But yeah, short answer is Brock Lesnar, whatever title Brock Lesnar is holding. I think it's not the title that makes the man, it's the man that makes the title. All right, and I think we had another question on here. Let's see if we could pull it up here. It was the one...
Oh, yeah. Okay, so... Do you want to do the super chat first?
Yeah, let's do the super chat first from Cindy
Okay,
G.
Cindy, $5. Who do you consider the worst WWE title holder of the decade? Any WWE title.
Oh, so this is not necessarily a world champion? I mean, I would say Jinder Mahal being the WWE champion. I mean, do you have a pick? Would Jinder be your pick?
Maybe, but I'd have to, like, look at a list, actually. Because 10 years is a long time. It's easy to forget not memorable things, so even if they maybe weren't the absolute worst, but not memorable at all, could actually be worse in a way than somebody that you remember for being bad.
Right.
Because they're just, you don't even remember it being there.
I agree on
those
that.
are the ones that I can't think of off the top of my head.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, Jack Swagger had a pretty lackluster run as the world champion. So Swagger would probably be next to Jinder Mahal as far as the worst champions. And again, I'm thinking of the world champions because Intercontinental champion, like, a lot of them were forgettable runs, like you said. So it's like, can't really say much. The only one I remember really is Zack Ryder because of that whole incident. And he probably was legitimately the worst champion because he only had it for a day, you know?
Right. Here's another one.
All right, we got another one here.
The Cleaver, Colin Andrew. Do you see European title returning in 2020? NXT UK is in need of a mid-card championship. WWE Shop even recently started selling them again.
Interesting.
TJS did not let us know about that.
Yeah, he did not.
He tells us anytime a new shirt comes up on the site, anytime a belt comes up, so he's not on his game.
You bad, TJS. You a bad puppy. But yeah, I think the European title would be very fitting in the NXT UK brand. Give them a mid-card title. I like the idea, Colin Andrew, and maybe, just maybe, you're onto something. All right, now let's get to that other question that we had here.
All right, so we've got Mr. Politics 525 said, "Hey, Aaron, who do you think will be the woman to take the title from Becky Lynch?" He thinks it's either going to be Asuka, Nia Jax, or Ruby Riott, which is an interesting choice.
Do you think it's going to be any of them?
I do not think it's any of those three. What do you think?
I agree. Well, who's your pick? Who do you think is going to beat Becky Lynch?
I think maybe Shayna.
Shayna's my pick. Either Shayna or Ronda wins it back. One of those two. Whoever faces Becky, I think Becky is going to lose the title at WrestleMania to either Ronda Rousey or Shayna Baszler. But I don't see it being any of the other three. I think Asuka's just someone for Becky to beat to go into WrestleMania. Becky, sorry to you, but I think Becky's going to beat Nikki's title reign record. If she gets to WrestleMania, she's going to beat Nikki's run for sure. Because Nikki had it, Survivor Series to the October pay-per-view, I think, or Night of Champions. So almost a year.
Night of Champions.
Almost a year. So yeah, I think Nikki's record's getting broken. So you're gonna be almost as sad as Big G was when Shayna lost.
Yeah, but didn't, like, if you want to get technical, wouldn't Charlotte have technically beat that, but the belt switched, and so they, like, started the count over or something?
I guess, yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know if that's true. Somebody tell me about that. I think when they switched from the Divas belt to the women's belt, like, they stopped
considering it a new
Cindy, what's the answer on that?
Yeah, I'm not. Jeff would probably know because Jeff is very much up to date with all the.
Chris May says she's the longest reigning Diva champion. That I do know for a fact, but I just don't know if, like, women's belts in general. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Cindy's like, wait, what? What are you asking me? We'll talk later. Let's move on.
Okay. So I got to answer this question from Christian C. He's not too happy with me. He wants to know. He says, Please explain why Roman Reigns is on the worst superstar of the decade list. Better yet, explain why this list even exists. Spewing negativity and putting performers down for what? Content? It's all in good fun. It's entertainment, and you're not supposed to take it seriously. Think of the Razzies, like for the movies. People always have like, what's the worst movie? It's just for fun. It's not to put people down. And I don't think Roman Reigns is the worst superstar of the decade. And I have many times stated this on video. I don't think people should vote for him. He gets nominated anyways. It's a vote to the people. I let the people decide, and they decide to go with Roman Reigns. And I mean, the people that do argue Roman Reigns, they can make a point because arguably the worst matches of the past several WrestleManias involved Roman Reigns versus Triple H WrestleMania 32. I thought it was a boring main event. Versus Undertaker WrestleMania 33. A lot of people thought that that was a lackluster main event. I agree. WrestleMania 34, Brock Lesnar. A lot of people thought that was a dud. I agree. And the guy who's in the main event at WrestleMania and the match doesn't deliver, I don't blame Roman. I blame creative for it, but he was the guy in the match 3 years in a row that left a bad taste in people's mouths. So I understand the people that criticize Roman Reigns, but it's not his fault, and I would not label him as the worst superstar of the decade. But yeah, the reason for it is for entertainment, and I know people get easily offended, but I see it as no different than the Razzies for those worst movies. And people do it all the time. They make lists of the worst movies of all time, and it's all subjective. Like some movies you might think are terrible, other people think they're very entertaining and can find the good in them. It is what it is. So that's the answer to the question, Christian C. I hope that satisfied you. If not, I apologize, but it's one of those sorry, not sorry scenarios, you know. We're going to do what we're going to do here on NoDQ.com. And for those of you that do enjoy the content, thank you for supporting. I very much appreciate it. So on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you, Caitlin, for being on. I appreciate you contributing and helping out here. Do you have any plugs? Anything you would like to promote?
No, just nodq.com/Caitlin. Takes you to my Twitter page.
Spelling for that?
Kaitlin.
Right, so it's not the WWE Caitlin spelling with the Y or with a C, so
correct.
Got to make sure it's the correct spelling.
Oh, wait a minute.
You guys know where to find me, at Aaron Rift, and of course at NoDQ, DOTCOM on all social media platforms. Thank you all again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, tell a friend, spread the word, and of course, NoDQ.com, your source for the very latest in wrestling. Have a great night, everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa, all that stuff. Happy Hanukkah. Did I get everything, or am I missing something?
I don't know.
That's all I know. Happy end of the year, and I wish everybody a very successful 2020. Be safe out there, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.